If you become a doctor, I will gift you a car. Do you know what are these types of contracts called? They are called contingent contracts. The Indian Contract Act, Section 31, defines a contingent contract as a contract to do or not to do something based on the occurrence or non-occurrence of an event that is related to the contract itself. So if A agrees to pay B rupees 10,000 if B's house is burned, this is an example of a contingent contract. Section 32 talks about the enforcement of contingent contracts on happening of an event. It states that contracts based on happening of an uncertain future event cannot be legally enforced until that event actually occurs. So if A contracts to sell a horse to B, if C refuses to buy it, the contract can be enforced if C indeed refuses to buy the horse. Section 33 Enforcement of contingent contracts on an event not happening. It explains that contingent contracts based on not happening of an uncertain future event can be enforced when it becomes impossible for the event to happen. So if A agrees to pay B if a certain ship does not return and the ship sinks, the contract can be enforced upon the sinking of the ship. Section 34 When event on which contract is contingent is deemed impossible. It specifies that if future event on which a contract is contingent depends on the actions of a living person at an unspecified time, the contract becomes impossible when that person takes actions, making it impossible for him to perform his obligation. So if A agrees to pay B if B marries C, but C marries D, the marriage of B to C is considered impossible. Section 35 Happening of specified event within fixed time. It specifies that contingent contracts contingent on a specified uncertain event happening within a fixed time become void if the event does not happen within that time or if it becomes impossible before the time expires. So if A promises to pay B if a certain ship returns within a year, the contract can be enforced if the ship returns within the year but becomes void if the ship is burnt within that time. Section 36 Agreement contingent on impossible events void. This section states that contingent agreements to do or not to do something based on impossible events are void regardless of whether the parties knew the impossibility at the time of making the agreement. So if A agrees to pay B 1000 rupees if two straight lines enclose a space which is impossible, making the agreement void. Thus these legal provisions serve to clarify when and how contingent contracts can be enforced or become void, ensuring that contracts are both fair and legally binding under Indian contract law.